why would you go straight to the, like, conspiracy theories are for idiots, Al? Because A, they are, and B, this dude. So one of the biggest conspiratorial letdowns of the last 18 months, let's just say, specifically, like, just set up like this, like, everybody who was into this conspiracy was like, yeah, here it comes. Come on. I'm going to show you. Oh, you're going to get it now. Here it comes. The cavalry is coming. I was shadow banned and people got, and then nothing. It was the Twitter files. Twitter files have been a massive dud, which is coincidentally the same word that comes to mind when you look at Matt Taibbi. See what I mean? It's just literally the word. It just leaps to mind. You look at his, like when he's about to say something, you're like, it's going to be a dud. It's a dud. This is a dud. Yeah, that's Matt Taibbi. Matt Taibbi, who started his career in Russia with a magazine called Exile, where he and his partner on it sexually harassed all the women that were there in very grotesque ways and laughed about it. I guess this background of being a douchebag living the high life in collapsing early Russia, post-Soviet Russia, is a thing. I guess it's a thing. And by the way, Lawrence, thanks for becoming a patron. I noticed that came up. And hi, Robert. Thank you so much. Thanks for the gifted subs there, Shadow Woman as well. Hold on, I've got to make this page out. There we go. Now I can see everything. So, yeah, in case you don't know that, he got his start in Russia. Shocker. I know. You're thinking, why? It's like at least 100, first or at least 1.5 world countries that you could kind of jumpstart a career in all kinds of stuff in. And wouldn't you know it, they always go to Russia. It's just fucking weird that way. I don't know how that, the traces back to them hanging out there. Not even one of like the satellite countries of Russia. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I dicked around Romania for a few years or whatever and ended up, I have a Russian wife. You don't say. Really? What? Oh my gosh. Kathy, thank you for the super chat as well. Bless you for that. Yes, you can support the show, by the way, patreon.com/HalSparks. Super chats, stars on Facebook. Is anybody even kicking in those anymore? I don't get a notice. I don't see them till later. And so some folks, I just want, I see it later and I'm like, oh, yay. And then I forget to tell the people that so thank you. And yeah. And then, of course, subscribe on Twitch. If you have Amazon Prime, it doesn't cost you a dime. Here we go. Now, this is Taibbi on, oh, shit, on Dan Bongino's show. That's how bad it's gotten. Yeah, Taibbi can't even, they're pawning him off. His performance in front of the weaponization committee was such shit that he didn't even get to follow up with a shot on Tucker or Hannity. They bounced him straight to fucking Bongholio over the weekend. Maybe that's why he's got butthead mouth right now. Bongholio. All right, so he's, by the way, you'll recognize if he uses this word, I swear to God. Outrageous! It's outrageous treatment. Which means any politician who uses the words outrageous about some accusations, just understand that means they're true. And anybody like this who says they were treated in an outrageous fashion or it was outrageous treatment means they know very well they deserve the treatment they got. This is the easiest part of the decoder ring. Let's see. All right.
Joining me now for his first interview since that hearing.
Yes, and I'm sure he's super excited. Awesome. I get to be on whom? What? I'm not on one of the big... No. We couldn't I can't be on Tucker's Fox Nation show. I mean, nobody watches it, but at least it's... Bongino. All right, well. Yeah, sure. Everybody does afternoon interviews on Saturday. It's really the new... It's the new 8:30 on a Thursday night.
Is a journalist you just heard testify on Capitol Hill...
Excuse me, so-called journalist, also so-called stenographer, also so-called scumbag misogynist, also so-called douchebag. I mean, if we're going to just line up all the things he's been called and whether or not he fully earns the title or not, I'm sure he'll debate the halfway part. Like, I would call him a douchebag, but he would say he's not. So therefore, that would make him a so-called douchebag to himself. You get how that it works? Great.
Journalist Matt Taibbi. Matt, thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate
Thanks. Glad to be here. Who are you again?
Appreciate it. I've been very concerned about this symbiosis between these NGOs, government, and the FBI.
Yeah, it's the non-governmental organizations that are controlling our lives that I'm concerned about. Especially that dude who dresses up as Santa for the Salvation Army every year. That motherfucker.
And censorship. Through your work at the Twitter Files, how exactly does it work?
Yeah. You've only done something like 17 versions of this shit and on Twitter and your Substack, and I still can't grasp. I haven't read any of it because I don't need to. I'm just kind of professionally flipping out about something all the time. So, can you walk me through what you write? Because reading it is no interest whatsoever.
Which results in content being pulled down.
Or doesn't. Walk me through the part where it doesn't get pulled down, and then I'll know that this is all nonsense.
Well, originally what we thought was going on was that only the FBI and DHS and maybe a few other agencies were.
Yeah, the EPA, the CDC, anybody with 3 letters, anybody with 4, FEMA, that we're not worried about them. DARPA, they're too busy cooking the atmosphere with Jewish space lasers.
Directly telling companies like Twitter to pull down a few accounts here and there.
Yeah, they didn't do that. They made requests, and I don't know if you know the difference between a request and telling somebody to do something. It's kind of like this. It's like asking someone in your office in Russia, say while you're running a zine, to go out on a date, or telling them to fuck your partner, or more specifically, telling them to let your partner have sex with them in the buttocks area, in the butt area. That'd have to be the butt, Bob.
But as time went,
he said butt. I said butt, but then he followed it. I'm just saying.
We learned that actually there's a whole complex of organizations and NGOs.
Oh, Jesus Christ. He's tired of his own shit. A whole complex. You know what the whole complex is? Okay, God damn it. You know what the whole complex is? Anybody can ask a social media platform to take shit down. And sometimes they say yes, and sometimes they say no. And nobody's verboten from asking. The government is verboten from ordering. Private companies and private individuals arguably could put forward a lawsuit threatening to sue Twitter for, posting revenge porn or non-consensual nudes if they don't take them down. And so they can kind of send a cease and desist like letter, which would be the closest thing to someone telling them not to do something like that. Everybody else is, wait for it, asking.
A lot of them are state-funded. Some of them are entirely state-funded that are sending huge lists.
Yeah, if you think about it, like Americans, they're all like the Fed makes dollars, and dollars are exchange notes for currency that the Treasury wants. So technically, it's all taxpayer money, whether they paid it through taxes or not. If you really think about it,
lists of names to these companies, and that's the primary route by which people are taken off places like Twitter or Facebook or.
Okay, you're not helping. Bongino doesn't know what the fuck you're talking about. Look at his face. He's already made up his mind what it means, but he doesn't understand the words that just came out of Matt Taibbi's face. And for once, it's not Bongholio's fault, because Taibbi is talking out of his ass.
Any social media site.
Yeah, any of them. Parler. What? Rumble. Truth Social.
Matt, libertarian-leaning conservatives like myself
Tell me you've smoked weed without telling me you've smoked weed, and telling me you call yourself a Christian while you're at your absolute asshole-ish best.
I've been concerned about things like the Patriot Act, because what happens is, I think what you saw, and correct me if I'm wrong with the Twitter
Well, you're wrong already. I'll just correct you. We'll see.
files, where it starts as, hey, we're trying to get rid of foreign interference in elections, and it morphs into, Joey Bag of Donuts on the corner makes a tweet about the vaccine and finds himself, in the doghouse. I mean,
all right. Just because you're dealing with foreign influence, or that is the primary reason behind it, doesn't mean that people who lie about the vaccine as such are off the hook from Twitter's terms of service, especially Joey Bag of Donuts. Fuck that guy, honestly, because he walks around with that bag and he doesn't share. That's why he keeps them in a bag instead of in a box where donuts belong. Joey, you're an asshole.
am I wrong in that analysis?
Yes.
No, that's absolutely the correct analysis, because this effort actually began with counterterrorism in 2015. Then it progressed to Russian foreign interference in 2016, 2017.
Because it happened?
And then next thing you knew, it was domestic violent extremism.
No, it didn't just happen. They didn't just jump to that. People did a bunch of that shit. Also, we've had domestic violent extremism in this fucking country forever. Timothy McVeigh, anyone? The only thing new about it is the existence of social media. They just realized, oh shit, these folks are using social media as a way of connecting or planning things. Great, now we've got another thing to cover.
And then what we found just this week, we found memos talking about the desire to strike down true stories of vaccine side effects, or...
Not the desire. What? True stories of vaccine side effects played up and retweeted like crazy to try and get people extra scared. The normal statistical averages of any people that have issues with vaccines of all kinds should talk everyone out of getting their measles vaccine, because a select member of the public and who should be in contact with your doctor, which is why they said check with your doctor about getting the vaccine and which one might be right for you, and also how they're different, because the Johnson & Johnson one is very different from the mRNA ones, and the people who were afraid of the mRNA tended to go to the Johnson & Johnson. And curiously enough, the myocarditis issues were early in the Johnson & Johnson phases, if you'll recall that, and yet people attribute it to mRNA. It's just weird. It's almost like social media is not a good place to get medical advice.
True stories that might...
Smoke after the show. I mean, I don't recommend it at all. But if you're going to just rip a giant paranoid bong hit, save it. Have a celebratory bong rip after the show. You only got a few minutes.
Encourage hesitancy, vaccine hesitancy. So they went from counterterrorism to going after true material within the space of a couple of years. So it's a small group of people at first, and now it's a really, really big pool of people that they're looking at.
Look, you know what's a really big pool? It's a really big pool. The they he's talking about. Do you notice that? The number of people throwing their hat in the ring in terms of dealing with concerning posts online, from the medical community to, charities or minority work groups, that deal with anti-defamation of LGBT or other minorities or gay people or any of that stuff. There tend to be more of those. They're all online. They have access. They use the service, and therefore, as a user of the service, they can lodge a complaint. And again, this doesn't boil down to how many fucking people ask for what, okay? Never did, never will. The only question is, did anyone in the government tell Twitter or Facebook or any of these organizations, take this down or else? And the answer is yes, actually. In one particular case, Donald Trump, when he wanted Chrissy Teigen's tweets taken down, literally said, we've got to punish these social media. That's when he started talking about getting rid of 230 the most. That's when he really added that extra drive and was basically threatening them with litigation. It was a It was an absolutely impotent threat, as you would expect. But it was a threat all the same. Didn't come from, I mean, I don't know how the Biden campaign could have threatened anybody because they're a campaign, private organization. And the FBI, under most of the complaints that they have in this situation, the FBI, DHS, any of these groups, even the overreach that they seem to be concerned about, all happened when Trump was in office. And again, the only time a federal government agency or person with the power to actually, I guess, engage in legal warfare with one of these companies, put any controls on them from a superseding power, was Donald Trump specifically.
Matt, I want to play for you this quick clip. Obviously, you were there, you've seen it, but the audience may not have.
Yeah, well, I mean, you didn't.
You're the one who exposed this malfeasance, and stunningly, you became the focus of their ire. Here, take a look.
Well, in all fairness, it's because he's full of shit. But also, explain ire. After this. Hold on. By the way, Bongino has a habit of showing clips and then repeating things that weren't in the clip or saying things happened that weren't in the clip. Enjoy.
If we can take off the tinfoil hat, that there's not a vast conspiracy.
Are you being paid to be here today, either through consulting fees, campaign contribution to your next run?
Data was given to these so-called journalists before us now.
I'm not a so-called journalist.
Not anymore. I mean, he used to be a so-called journalist. Now I wouldn't call him that. He's a stenographer for a billionaire.
I've won the National Magazine Award, the IFC.
I'm not a thief. I may have stole some stuff today, but I bought most of the shit I own in the past. And technically, the stolen stuff isn't even mine. So...
An award for independent journalism, and I've written 10 books, including 4 New York Times bestsellers.
Matt, this is disgusting.
Yes, it is disgusting that he tries to rest on his laurels like that while doing everything he can to be in complete contrast with actual journalistic ethics. It's weird. I will give. Well, we'll see what he does. I was about to give him credit for something, but we'll see what let's finish the thought.
Foil cap. You were paid off. You're a so-called journalist, despite.
I don't know that they were told. They asked. I don't know what that was in regard to.
A resume to die for.
It's to die for. It's a wonderful resume. My God, is there anything he can't do except obviously tell the truth?
That had to bother you personally.
Yeah, this is hey. Look, I know you want facts. I know you want to rebut this based on details. That's why you came here to Unfiltered with Bongino. But let's get to the heart of the matter. Let's get to why this was an attack on you. There'll be plenty of time for details later where you can prove that what they said, while hurtful, yes, was false. We don't need that. How are you doing?
Well, I expected that, but I think the thing that's extraordinary about what happened to both me and to Michael Schellenberger, the other witness, is
more you than him, but also Schellenberger was incredibly douchey. I've only seen his tweets before. This is my first time seeing him in person, and his opening statement was, as we covered on the show, was as douchey, if not more so. By the way, that guy behind him with the beard, the bald dude or whatever, apparently, I don't know who he is, but he's a big fan. He was just perturbed every time someone cast aspersions in Matt's direction.
they would never.
And look at him, he just nods lovingly at everything Matt says in while he's there. Like, you tell him, Matt.
Treat a New York Times reporter like that or a Washington Post reporter like that and suggest that it was somehow, wrong for a reporter to make money, which.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, kiddo. I'm guessing that this committee, the Democrats especially, have no mandate, authority, or purpose to even call witnesses to present the idea that I don't know, that everybody at the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and everywhere else, and even the people who write books and do very well, like Bob Woodward or other folks like that, don't deserve every dime they make. I'm going to go with perhaps it's that you're not actually making money as a journalist right now. You are making money because Elon Musk is throwing you cash to hash through details that he selectively gives you to create a narrative to push back on something because he tricked himself into buying Twitter and now he's pissed.
Came out during the hearing. They asked me if I'd been paid to testify, which was totally outrageous. They called.
So you were. Totally, it was outrageous, was it? Was it untrue though? Because you know how that's how that works. Outrageous works that way. Outrageous is a great word because someone suggesting you did something awful can be outrageous in and of itself. It can cause outrage in a myriad of quarters. But saying it's outrageous is not an actual rebuttal of the accusation at all.
Call this a direct threat to people who oppose them. That's very ominous language for the government to talk about with regard to journalists. And again, they would never do that with somebody they considered one of their own.
Or a real journalist, I think. If you weren't writing on a Substack magazine that was financed by Elon Musk doing specifically this project for him. I think that's the part. I will say that let's say Jeff Bezos was engaged in a massive bank fraud or something along those lines, and Washington Post reporters did not cover it or blamed, I don't know, Jamie Dimon, some other financial billionaire for what happened at Jeff Bezos's, mutual fund, that kind of thing. And then they got brought in front of the finance committee or any of those stuff. And they were asked about this because they had quit working for the New York Times or something. And they'd gone to work for Jeff Bezos's Washington Post. And they were only writing financial articles that were glowing reviews of him and in many ways like fomented the idea that everybody else except him was to blame for exactly what happened. Then I think the questions would be quite similar, as a matter of fact.
Which, a typical mainstream reporter. So that, yeah, I think that was very, very disturbing what happened yesterday.
Emotionally.
Matt, I don't know your politics. Frankly, I don't care. But I know you're a journalist, not a so-called journalist. And I really want...
How? Asshat, you didn't even read the Twitter files. That's why you had to get him to explain it. Because notice Bongino, and by the way, and you only gave him 4 minutes. 4 minutes. This motherfucker has been doing the Twitter files for months. He sat down in front of that committee for a few hours. And the end result was 4 minutes on Bongino. I'm guessing that Murdoch and that crowd were not impressed with the performance. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it.
I want to thank you. It's guys like you that are going to save this space, the journalism space. Thanks for your time.
Hey, Sean.
Yes, the journalism space. It's a safe space. We need a safe space for journalists. Thanks, Bongino. But again, in many ways, effectively a conspiracy theory. The biggest problem they had and why they wanted to have him on and play that particular clip is that tinfoil hat comment, because the idea is that their conspiracy theory, the air went out of the tires this week. It was complete ass. If you haven't been paying attention or you only read the first couple of the Twitter files, which is what a lot of people do, by the time you get to the 5th or the 7th one, which is the equivalent of the 3rd paragraph, and it goes, also, everybody asked for stuff to be taken down, and sometimes Twitter did, and sometimes they didn't, which is the opposite of censorship. It is just ridiculous. It's so fucking lame. And they have forced, in many ways, to say it over and over again. They couch it in smaller ones. You'll notice that he often will put that statement in a single regular tweet with none of the pictures. Like he'll do screen cap, of like a headline or something like that, or multiple ones in a particular tweet. But in between those will be a little one that says, well, of course, Democrats did this occasionally. And Twitter would sometimes say yes and sometimes say no. And bury that in this avalanche of horse shit, which is effectively a Twitter gish gallop from this dickhead. But the reason is why they're upset is because this is like the Durham report or any of this other shit. It is just deflating. You're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, share the show, by the way. Share it out to other folks.